Any Assassin's Creed fan knows the one thing fans have been begging for is a game set in feudal Japan. For years they give us nonsense like Viking assassins, as if that made sense, and finally we got an Assassin's Creed set in feudal Japan. Just not from Ubisoft. Ghost of Tsushima was a huge hit with fans, and I've yet to see anyone complain about that game. That made Ubisoft's job harder because now they had competition within their own niche market, which was their own fault for waiting so damn long. Now it's 2024 and we finally have Ubisoft's response to Ghost of Tsushima, their attempt to give fans what they want. And everyone at Ubisoft should be immediately fired for what they gave us.
You guys suck at everything.
Like most fans, I usually enjoy these CG trailers, but we've all pretty much learned to accept them for what they are. Exciting short films. Whether it's the ones focusing on Ezio, Unity, or Black Flag, they always do a great job of really hyping up the character as a badass. That being said, this might be the worst one so far, because while Naue had some cool fight scenes, this thing had nothing on the classic trailers, where we'd see things like a single assassin cutting his way through an army of British soldiers firing at him and turning the tide of an entire battle single-handedly. It's at best a cheap imitation of the Assassin's Creed 2 trailer showing Ezio hunting down his target. That trailer did a much better job of showcasing an assassin taking down their mark. This one had way too much talking and pointless confrontation. That being said, now let's get the obvious and most controversial part out of the way. We all know damn well why they picked Yasuke, and it ain't because they have a lot of love and respect for Japanese culture. Ubisoft is apparently deep in the DEI trenches and is very oppressive in the way they handle it in their games. They took a character with a very vague history and basically changed the only aspects we do know about him. He wasn't some top tier samurai, he was basically a servant picked by his master because the guy had never seen a black guy before. Based on all this information that Ubisoft threw out, he only fought once after his master was killed. He wasn't leading armies like this trailer shows us.
Don't ask questions, just consume product and then get excited for next product.
As we know from Stellar Blade, being Asian is apparently not diverse enough for these people anymore. The beauty of AC is that they used to be able to play around with history just enough to make it a romanticized, fun version of reality, but they always kept things accurate enough so it was believable. Now they have different priorities and it shows. Pretty sure the first thought people have about feudal Japan has nothing to do with a deep African accent and dreadlocks.
Well, that sounds terrible.
It is terrible.
Not sure what the gaming industry has against Asian culture, but it's obvious that the modern entertainment industry as a whole had so much fun ruining Western culture, they decided to share the fun with the rest of the world. Remember that Cleopatra show where they made her black because some old woman's grandma said she was? Good times. Liberals love to talk about respecting other cultures when it comes to, Lara Croft raiding some tombs, but when they decide to shove their weird politics and diversity crap into other people's cultures, that's somehow okay? You can't just decide to rewrite other people's history and legacy, then expect them to accept it as reality? Not everyone lives in fairy tale alphabet liberal land like you freaks. Keep in mind this is the first time they made a game in the most highly requested era, and they can't even restrain themselves enough to respect the culture other people created. This tweet sums it up perfectly. Every other time period got a main character that made historical sense, but once we get to Japan, now they ransack Japanese culture and pick out some obscure, unimportant character that people have recently been trying to reimagine as some larger-than-life legend. I don't understand what would have been so wrong about having both characters be Japanese, seeing as how the game is set in fucking Japan. But no, we're gonna take possibly the only black man ever known to be in Japan at that time and tell a story about Japan's history and culture through his character. Yeah, that makes sense.
What a terrible joke!
The trailer itself wasn't the funniest part. That honor goes to the stupid developer talk they always put out with these trailers nowadays. They go on and on about their love and respect for Japanese culture as they showcase a game that rewrites Japanese history to fit their creepy agendas. Naue's first line in the trailer is literally about her culture being destroyed in the name of unification, which is hilarious to include in a game that is bastardizing Japanese culture for the sake of diversity, equity, and inclusion. Also, just say these two are gonna hook up. My god, it's ridiculous how hard they try to avoid saying it. You've completely fucked up Japanese culture by this point, don't bother drawing the line here. Speaking of these characters, this game seems to be on the wrong path when it comes to dual protagonists. A game like Assassin's Creed Syndicate gave each character advantages for their specialty, i.e. stealth or combat, not disadvantages for the one they didn't specialize in. For example, Evie was able to turn invisible, which is not something you desperately need, but it's a great tool to have for stealth. When I had a choice, I played as Evie because I preferred the stealth advantages and her costumes, but I never felt like I couldn't take on as many enemies as Jacob when it came to combat. Evie actually ended up being one of my favorite Assassin's Creed main characters. Based on how they describe this game, they specifically point out that you can't fight as many enemies when you're playing as Nawe. They say that once she's seen, she has to get out of there as fast as possible. Now there's something to be said for an assassin wanting to keep to the shadows, but even playing as Evie, I never felt that I had to run away from a fight, and I definitely never felt that way with Ezio or Edward or any of the other assassins.
They stole it from us.
I hate this idea of requiring the player to use both characters because each is only competent at doing one thing. Unlike Jacob, Yasuke looks like he has no assassin qualities. Again, Jacob was still an assassin and you could play him that way, but Yasuke doesn't even have a hidden blade. He's literally just a brute. Who the hell would want to play that way during an Assassin's Creed game? If I ever did play this game, I'd definitely play as Nawe every time I had a choice, but unlike Syndicate, I'd clearly be at a massive disadvantage if I ever got discovered, because based on their explanation, either you run away or you get killed. You can't really fight as Nawe, unlike Evie who could more than handle herself in a fight if she got discovered.
Well, that sucks!
They try to win back fans of stealth for what seems like the millionth time, but if Mirage, a game entirely based around stealth, couldn't even keep that promise, what chance does the next big RPG Assassin's Creed game have? Not sure why we'd believe them this time around. They have zero credibility at this point when it comes to pleasing real Assassin's Creed fans who remember playing as actual assassins. If they keep this nonsense RPG system where enemies are damage sponges, that alone wrecks the assassin fantasy. Older AC games and even Ghost of Tsushima understood how to make combat and enemies challenging while keeping the power trip alive. Unlike this new RPG system where it takes 5 minutes to kill one standard enemy. I'd bet that Ghost of Tsushima and potentially some of the older AC games are going to see a significant boost in sales when this game comes out.
Is that allowed?
Yes, it's encouraged.
Whether it's Valhalla or Odyssey, none of these modern AC titles are leaving a lasting impact. When their graphics and gameplay become outdated, who's gonna play them? Are they gonna stand the test of time like some of the classic AC games have? I replayed Assassin's Creed 2 recently, and nothing about the older graphics or combat bothered me because it was engineered to be fun and timeless. It wasn't some trendy wave that Ubisoft was trying to ride. They made it to stand out and be its own unique experience that you couldn't find in any other game. Is anyone gonna play this game after 15 years? Probably not, but if I were Ubisoft, I'd be much more worried about people not even bothering to buy this when it comes out in 6 months, let alone who's gonna remember it in 15 years.